Last time on the complete history of Speed Racer, Mach Go 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 premieres in Japan, and it's a big hit. It premieres in America as well, and is also a big hit. And then this version happened, and we don't like to talk about it. Anyways, on to part 2. With the failure of the New Adventures of Speed Racer, it was time to set the Mach Go 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 / Speed Racer franchise in a new direction. This time, not one that's being headed by an American studio. The production for the next Speed Racer show, Mach Go 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 Restart, was being sent back to its country of origin, Japan. From there, production began on a brand new Speed Racer show from Modern Age, and in 1997, Mach Go 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 Restart officially hit the airwaves, and, much to nobody's surprise, it was a giant hit. While it wasn't exactly a continuation of the original series, it still had everything that the fans came to know and love. The action, the sports thrills, the family dynamics, strong characters, tight writing, funny jokes. Everything that was in the original was in this version as well, albeit with some better animation here and there. One thing that's important to clarify though is that Mach Go 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 Restart is not a reboot of the classic 1960s show. It's like an alternate universe or new take on the series, or maybe even just a remake. We've never got any actual clarification, but we do know for a fact that it's not the same universe as the one before. There are several continuity changes, like the last name of Speed Racer's family being changed from Mifune to Hibiki, Spritle now being Trixie's brother instead of Speed's, the Mach 5 gets a serious makeover, and perhaps the most important change is the backstory to Racer X. Instead of having a falling out with his family causing him to run away, Rex Racer is now presumed dead. And from the looks of things, this is the direction that the series would take going forward, especially in the movie from 2008, although we're not there quite yet. And while Restart wasn't a continuation, so to speak, it still added some extra lore to the franchise, like how Speed and Trixie first met. And yes, it was different, but it still had everything that the fans loved. It goes without saying that Speed Racer Enterprises was successful in bringing this franchise to a new generation. And of course, when that happened, they decided to cash in. Respectfully so, of course. They didn't jeopardize the reputation of the brand, but they more decided to capitalize on its newfound success, you know? Unlike the original Speed Racer series, which started off as a manga first, then became an anime, Restart was the exact opposite. It started off as an anime, and then became a manga a little while later, albeit a short-lived one for kids. I know that's not a super important detail, I just thought it was kind of interesting, so why not throw it in? Having Restart succeed in Japan was one thing, but having it succeed in the West? That was another beast entirely. The series remained popular in Japan, but partially because of the obscurity of the character past the 60s, as well as the atrocious American version, Speed Racer wasn't necessarily a hot commodity over here in the States. So while at first it might seem like a risky decision to bring the series over, there were still some die-hard American fans who would love to see a new version of this beloved series. Some of them held positions of power. That fan went by the name of Craig McCracken, and if that name sounds familiar to you, he's the one that made the Powerpuff Girls, Wander Over Yonder, and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Oh, and his wife Lauren Faust is also responsible for creating a cultural phenomenon connected to a Hasbro property, but that's a topic for no other day. There's no Friendship is Magic video in the works. Sorry, not sorry. Craig McCracken was working on a series called Dexter's Laboratory, and right around the time that Mach Go 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 Restart aired in Japan, the West was blessed with a loving Speed Racer tribute called Mach 5, an episode of Dexter's Laboratory's second season, where for 7 whole minutes, it's not Dexter's Lab but a loving tribute to Speed Racer. They've got some costume changes to reflect the show, the voice acting style changes to fit the original 1960s English dub.
Dad, I'm going to enter the soapbox derby!
No! No son of mine is going to race, and for me to explain my reasons why would be a long story, but I'll tell you anyway.
And the animation takes a serious downgrade in order to replicate the original series, and is overall one big love letter to the franchise. And hey, people seem to like it. It got voted number 8 out of the top 10 Dexter's Laboratory episodes that aired on a Cartoon Friday special. So with all that being said, bringing the next Speed Racer show over would seem like a surefire success. Would seem like. Okay, give Mach Go 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 some credit. Sure, it only made 34 out of the planned 52 episodes, but at least in Japan, it got to air. A dub was made for Mach Go 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 Restart called Speed Racer X, and while it did get some positive buzz when being screened at Comic-Con, the American networks weren't exactly as excited as the fans. Every single one decided to pass on the pilot, and from there it seemed like all hopes of an English dub were officially dead. Turns out, all Speed Racer Enterprises had to do was wait a couple more years, until the futuristic year of 2002. This is where the animation company DiC approached Speed Racer Enterprises, expressing interest in creating an English dub for Restart. And unlike the original dub that they planned on making if Speed Racer X took off, the DiC dub was considerably less loyal to the source material. One of the biggest examples of this was the show being edited for content. Much like the original Speed Racer series back in the 1960s, there were some things in there that wouldn't necessarily fly for a children's audience in the West. It aired on the Nickelodeon action block Nick Slam, until it didn't. It only lasted about 13 episodes before the entire project was shut down. And why is that? Well, because Speed Racer Enterprises and DiC went to court. Speed Racer Enterprises tried to break the agreement that they had in terms of merchandising rights and who would get what amount of money, and DiC was not having it. According to DiC's attorney, Bonnie Eskenazi, this is a classic case of seller's remorse and greed. DiC has brought this character back to life, and now SRE, Speed Racer Enterprises, wants the benefit of that renewed life without paying for it. Instead of being grateful to DiC after all the hard work's been done, they want to cut DiC out. The court case dragged on, and the time for a new agreement came and went, and eventually, since they were never able to reconcile, Speed Racer Enterprises and DiC officially parted ways, finally killing off any chance of an English dub for Mach Go 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 Restart. So, in a sense, the series did indeed get restarted, but only in Japan. As for the Western audience, they would have to wait until 2017 in order to see the show in its entirety, but there was no English dub. It was the original Japanese with English subtitles. And I know there's a big debate going on as to whether subs or dubs are better. Personally, I don't know. It's not really my place to say. Anyways, the series was in limbo after Restart aired, primarily living off DVD sales in order to stay afloat. But then in 2006, to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Speed Racer, a brand new original Speed Racer series was in production, and it was going to be made with the express purpose of bringing Speed Racer to a new generation. Again, the series was being created by Speed Racer Enterprises, of course, and also a newcomer to the Speed Racer scene, Art Asylum, and if that's not ringing any alarm bells now, then let me explain. Art Asylum isn't exactly a production company, it's a toy design company, and Speed Racer Enterprises approached them so they could make a new line of Speed Racer toys.
I like money.
At first, that doesn't sound so bad. In fact, it's kind of expected. If this series was gonna bring Speed Racer to another generation of kids, then they were obviously gonna want to make some toys to profit off of it, right? Well, that's the problem with this new version of Speed Racer. Speed Racer Lives, as it would come to be called, was not really a revival of the series. It was a bunch of 7-minute web shorts that were actually toy commercials in disguise. And it shows a lot. The writing is terrible, the characterization is way off, and it gives off this constant energy of a cynical marketing ploy, which, to be fair, it kinda was. I have a theory as to why this was a 7-minute web series instead of a real TV show. And it's because, over here in America, it's illegal to make a TV show that has an express purpose of selling toys. Sure, there can be shows based on toys that heavily push them like He-Man or the Wuzzles, but when it came to things like the Hot Wheels show, the American Congress had to step in and go, no, we're not having this. no commercials blatantly disguised as TV shows from here on out. But the key word there is TV show, not web show. I'll admit that's a clever workaround, but it still didn't work. People hated this thing, especially fans of the original series. As a result, the planned toy line never really got off the ground, and Speed Racer Lives, ironically enough, died really quickly, even becoming lost media until 2017. I'm sure to many Speed Racer fans, the fact that Speed Racer Lives didn't turn out so well wasn't really a surprise. In every single press release I could find, they were talking only about Art Asylum's work on the toys, and the merchandise, and the ad campaigns. It's so fake. They were practically warning everybody in advance, hey, we don't care about the original, this is just going to be a cash grab. And for a while, it seemed like Speed Racer fans were going to be stuck with this as their latest installment in the series. But as it turns out, there was another much bigger plan in the works to help make Speed Racer relevant again worldwide. Perhaps the biggest step that the franchise has ever taken, but that's a story for part 3. Well folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? Out of the versions discussed here, what was your favorite revival of Speed Racer? For me, I think the choice is kinda clear. Mach Go 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 Restart was the only good one. Sure, Speed Racer X is technically the same show, but it only lasted 1 episode, so it's kind of hard to compare to the rest. Anyways, comment below and let me know because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. And now, it's time to thank our wonderful Patreon people, starting with our Masters of Fate. Chan 11, Drew the Stew, Kev Messick, MD the Dude, Platinum Bass, Quiet Chap, Ryan Williams, Timey, and Woody Woo. And now, it's time to thank our executive producers, Aaron Vasquez, Albert Robinson, Blackjack, H.R. Hoffman, Indiscreet One, Orsinus, Ravioli Supremo, Unkale, and who else but Zane. If you two would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then please consider donating to the Patreon. There's a link in the description below for you to check out. And we've also got a link to the Media Mementos Discord server right under that. So stop on by and say hello. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time.